Welcome to the People's Sports Podcast. I'm Charlotte Wilder. He's Mark Titus. We are back from Oklahoma. The curse is reversed. How are you feeling?
I feel good about it. Nebraska made a game of it, Charlotte. We should say this was a much better game than it should have been. There were moments, and people tried to. There were people that were texting me in the third quarter. When it felt like at some point Oklahoma was just gonna, all right, finally take this seriously and step on Nebraska's neck and then pull ahead.
Yeah.
And they started. They were thank God the curse is over. Thank God Oklahoma's gonna win. And then Nebraska just like never went away. I was like, what are you people? Why would you? What is going on here? Why are you texting me right now? You know, wait till the game is over for God's sakes. And it ultimately did come down to kind of the final seconds ish. I mean, like it wasn't really ever that scary, but. Anyway.
No, yeah. I'm going to be honest, knowing that we were there, I was pretty scared. I was looking at halftime, I looked at the score and I was like, oh man, if Nebraska beats Oklahoma, that's about as cursed as you can get. Like there is no coming back from that. And people would be like, yes, looks like you guys are going to do it. And I was like, if you could just not. For 2 seconds, like if you could wait till and then when there was the interception and then you know the game was over and I was just like, I was so relieved. I was like, oh my God, thank God we did it.
I will say
this doesn't have to be our narrative.
You were more stressed about the idea of being a curse than I probably was because I welcome the chaos. I welcome the
yeah, I don't know
you hated
why.
the idea
I probably
of,
should have wanted it.
Yeah. I didn't want it per se, but if it's thrust on me, I'll take it, and I think it's funny. You know, like if Nebraska would have won, I would have been like, this is hilarious, and I think you would have been like you would have like gone and visited a psychic or something during our off week to try to figure out what's going wrong and what have you done.
I guarantee you. Well, someone sitting next to me on my flight on the way home was she was a flight attendant who was not working, and she also has an astrology website, she told me, so she read my star chart on the plane on the way home. So it happened anyway, Mark. Like, yeah, I don't know why I was so worried about being a curse. I think that probably would have been the best content. I think that I was a little worried, though, that we would start not to get access to schools if we show up. And the athletic director is like, no, you can't come see the field because you're going to – I think that's what was going through my head.
Right. But, you know, at a certain point, yeah, no, you're probably right. I was going to say,
no, I'm just a paranoid person, Mark. That's just how I think. I think, like, how many things can go wrong in advance.
Well, that's what I had the idea to, again, I was, like, leaning into the curse before the game. I think I did something on one of our Instagram stories or some sort of social channel we had where I turned to Wes, our social media guy, and I was like, I want to shoot something real quick. And I just said, we're outside the stadium, and I'm telling you, I can feel the vibes. The vibes were off in Columbus, Charlotte. But the vibes in Norman tell me there's literally nothing that can go wrong. At the moment I got to shoot that, I was like, all right, so I think Oklahoma's now definitely going to lose. But Oklahoma wins. Let's do what we do. I like the idea of this, of giving a nice little recap to the people of trying to organize our thoughts with our trip to these places. Our report cards is what we're calling them.
Yes.
First of all, what was your vibe? What was the vibe? Describe the vibe. What was the vibe like from your perspective in Norman at the Oklahoma game?
I was pretty obsessed with the vibe. I think Oklahoma, you know, at our live show, which was so fun. Thank you so much to everyone who came out. I truly that crowd was incredible. But at our live show, you know, RJ Young stopped by and he was like, look, football in Oklahoma, the reason our program is so good and they wanted it to be so good was because there was nothing else here. And so like football is what Oklahoma is. And he said that as an Oklahoman. Like that's not me saying that. And I got that sense. Like it mattered. Obviously it's like saying every marching band says they're the best or the only important one. Like everyone says it matters here differently. But there was an intensity to the like warmth of the people because they were all really nice, but they were all just like, there's one street in Norman and like it's just football.
Yes. I see what you're saying because it is hard to describe because I do think that if you ask people in Columbus what makes Ohio special, they would say it's football is life. If you ask people in Tuscaloosa what makes Tuscaloosa, they'd be like,
Right.
football is life. And the same was true in Norman. But it did feel that way. Like it's a tiny town. So my vibe would be, I went into this, I should say, I had zero preconceived notions about OU, which is very interesting to me because I've been covering college sports for about a decade now. And I've watched a lot of Oklahoma basketball. They've had a ton of great players come through the program. And yet I didn't really know anything about the campus. I didn't know anything about Norman. This is not something that I've never been before. It's something, in discussing fun stops along the way or bad stops along the way in covering college sports, no one ever brought up Norman either way. Like, no one was ever like, you got to get to Norman, it's a great time, or like, oh my God, I'll never go to Norman again. It just kind of like, so I had nothing going into this. I was like, I thought about it. I have no idea what this town is. And one thing that stood out to me, very friendly people. I was talking to a lot of Nebraska people too, and they were saying the same. They're like, we're being very well treated by all the Oklahoma fans. We can't believe it. This is a rivalry game, technically, and yet everyone seems to be very friendly to us. I mean, obviously, there's a little trash talk, but it was always like sort of friendly. Even at the show we did, there were a lot of Nebraska people, and the trash talk was never there was never any sense of like this might get out of hand or like they're I don't know. It was just like a very friendly vibe. It was like, we love our team, you love your team. Let's see what happens Saturday. Like that was kind of the vibe.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. I thought the campus was tiny, which could be good or bad. I don't know. Your results may vary. What you want out of a college campus. Certainly compared to Ohio State, where we were at last week, Oklahoma's campus was tiny. It's just like it's a nice little compact campus, beautiful architecture. And then the other thing that stood out to me, Charlotte, and I guess this might be the more interesting thing, is that the vibe to me was very. It made sense to me why Oklahoma and Texas are so intertwined as a culture. Why that rivalry exists. Why we are seeing horns down all the time. Because Oklahoma is. I couldn't figure out where Oklahoma is in the United States, in the sense that it is very clearly not a Midwestern state. We were not in the Midwest. I knew we were not in the Midwest. I was walking to the people are not Midwest. The weather is not Midwest. We were not in the Midwest. Now, at the same time, there were a lot of times I was walking around and I was saying to myself, I cannot believe that this school is going to be in the SEC, because this is not even close to the South either. Like, this is not the South. I've been to the South a million times. This is not the South. This is not the Midwest. It's not really the Southwest. It's not really like Arizona, and it's like its own. It's like Texas and Oklahoma are their own little thing. That's like a little bit of everything. It's like a little bit of the Wild West, a touch of the Midwest, I suppose, with the Great Plains, a little bit of South because they say y'all. I don't know, and it kind of started making more sense to me why like Texas and Oklahoma seem to live on an island in terms of like their culture and all that sort of stuff.
It's funny you say that, because as we were leaving, they have the map on the plane, and I looked at Oklahoma and Texas, and I literally thought to myself, what is that? Like, what do you call that? Because it's not. You see the plains, and you're like, okay, Dust Bowl, it's sort of like prairie vibes. And then when I went to the Sooner Schooner guys, I went to this ranch where they keep the ponies. Those were actual cowboys. Like, they were wearing real cowboy boots. They had real cowboy hats on. One of them had a belt buckle with a Texas that was turned upside down, so his belt buckle was literally horns down.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys were from Texas, and women. There were a lot of they've just started letting women drive in Oklahoma, apparently, which is nice.
They just started letting women drive.
No, they let them drive the schooner.
Oh.
Yeah. But and so it was really. I said to one of them, I was like, "You're a real life cowboy," and he goes, "Yes, ma'am." And I was like, okay, well then, there needs to be another geographical word for Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, I agree. I couldn't. What
do we call it?
I saw a
Oklahoma,
sign
Texas?
at Big Noon Kickoff. There was an Oklahoma fan that held up a sign that said "corn is overrated" or something, and that broke my brain, because I was sort of under the impression that. I knew Oklahoma wasn't quite the Midwest, but I guess I didn't realize they must not have corn in Oklahoma. So, if you're going to be in the Midwest, you have to have corn. You have to have corn.
Yes.
Kansas has corn, Nebraska has corn. The Midwest has corn. That's what we do better than anybody. But Oklahoma, them holding up the sign, I was like, oh my god, I guess they don't do corn in Oklahoma. So what is it? And it's very clearly, it's just like Oklahoma and Texas are their own thing. So that was the vibe. It's like it's Texas adjacent. Obviously, they're right next to each other, but like the culture, when you picture Texas culture, cowboys and red clay and all that sort of stuff, and oil money, like everything was oil money.
Oh,
like
so
there's
much oil money.
like
in
even the stuff that
Oklahoma.
wasn't oil money, I thought was like the Guitar Center in the strip mall next to the hotel I was staying at. I was like, I bet
Yeah.
oil money paid for that. You know, like it's just like everything.
Yeah. All the private
felt-
jets flying in on the morning of the game. It's like, oh, okay, oil money.
Oil money. Yeah.
Yeah.
It felt. Yeah, that was the vibe. That was the vibe. Very Friday
I
Night
got
Lights.
the-
Very
yeah.
like they might as well just merge into one state, which I understand. Like everyone from Oklahoma listening is like, hell no, we're never gonna be in Texas. You know, I get that, but that's culturally they're the same, and nowhere else is like that. It's Oklahoma and Texas, and then the rest of the country basically.
Yes, yeah, a
Yeah.
little bit, maybe New Mexico, like a little, like touches of it, but I found it very warm, very friendly. I really appreciated that too. Also, every building on campus looked like a tiny little castle, so that
Yeah,
was
it
fun.
did. It had cool architecture. I love that. I love campuses that have distinct architecture, and Oklahoma definitely
Yeah.
had that. What was the best food you had on the trip?
The best food was a drink, and it was that swirl drink at
Same.
the Mont.
Same.
I knew you.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
I think ours is going to be the same on this one, but it's what is it? Layers of frozen sangria, margarita.
That's it. It's half sangria, half margarita, and it's like swirled together. So it's like cream and crimson looking. It looks like the OU colors, and they swirl it together, and that's all it is. It's frozen sangria, frozen margarita. That's it.
And
Just that
everyone
simple.
had told us to go there. And it was sort of like Mickey's Dairy Bar. It was the kind of thing where I was like, okay, like the scrambler didn't disappoint. The swirl, what do they call it? The swirl or
The Sooner Swirl.
the Sooner Swirl didn't disappoint.
Yeah, it was great. It was I ordered one as soon as we got there. It was gone almost immediately. I wasn't even trying to drink fast. I just frozen drinks are kind of my kryptonite, Charlotte. I should say. I can down.
I could see that.
I can down like you give me like pina coladas in Maui. Oh my god, I'll drink 1,000 of them before I realize.
The
they
problem
even started.
is, you really can't taste the alcohol.
Yeah.
Like, you really can't. The Mont, like that, you could have told me that was like a little kid's dessert, and I would have been like, for
Might
sure.
be,
And
it
then
might be in Oklahoma. They might
yeah,
serve
right. Either that or there's no alcohol, and you just think you're drunk because you drank
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
All right, moving on to what's something you liked about Oklahoma that you wish Colby had or wish you had in your hometown, or however we're phrasing that. What's something you wish you could take with you back on the plane and be like, I want to take this thing home with me?
I really loved the cowboy culture, and I know that that's
Yeah.
not possible in in Maine or New England, and like, you know, we have fishermen, maybe that's the thing, but like there was something like the fact that those people could wear cowboy hats and cowboy boots and not look ridiculous or like posers.
Yeah.
That I was so jealous of. I was like, I can't wear those anywhere without looking like I'm trying too hard, and this was
Yeah.
effortless.
Yeah, that's a good point. That if part of you is like, why don't I just do the same and just rock it? And the answer is you would immediately stand out. And it's hard to define because they don't have like the people wearing all the cowboy stuff, they don't have anything inherently different about them. You know what I mean? Like if
No, they're all people.
they're all people. They put their pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
But they can rock it. We can't, and that's science's greatest mystery, I think. What is it about people from Oklahoma, Texas, that they can just naturally do that? And you and I, if we
you
tried, we
know,
look like losers.
I don't know, but one of the guys at the ranch, John, who I talked to the most, had this incredible mustache. He had all these tattoos on one arm. He was wearing probably the most beautiful cowboy hat I've ever seen. Like it was a white Stetson with, I don't even know if it was a Stetson. I don't know if it's sacrilegious to call a hat that's not a Stetson, but it had this like beaded, truly
yeah.
stunning.
Like a Richard Petty
And
look. Did it have feathers? Like
Yes.
All right.
Basically, and he was just, you know, every question was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, and there was just a confidence to him that was like, I knew if one of those horses got out, he could probably run faster than that horse and go get it. Like, we were going to be fine because John was there, was my
John was there.
takeaway.
You felt like you're on the set of Yellowstone at all times.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was like, if Kevin Costner showed up in a full costume, I would be so ready for it.
What is Texas going to do? We're going to Texas for 2 straight weeks, by the way, coming up. I have a feeling you're going to be dipping tobacco by the time you're done. I'm just going to see you on the plane, just like with a spittoon. You're carrying around a big spittoon, just spitting it into it.
Mace, one of our camera guys was like, you're gonna get a cowboy hat and you're gonna get cowboy boots. And I was like, I know. It's inevitable and I'll look like a loser, but we'll lean in.
You'll get back to Maine and be like, what the hell happened? Mine is along the same lines.
What was yours, Mark?
Yeah, you're talking about cowboy stuff. I said one thing I loved about OU in general was the merch. So the OU, the interlocking logo that OU has is very distinct. And not only is it distinct, Charlotte, but it is something that they do not stray from. And I pointed that out when I first got to campus. They had a bunch of signs hanging up of just that OU logo that everyone knows when you think of Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma. And I said something to one of our guys. I was like, They never go away from this. There's no such thing as an alternate logo. There's no, and I kind of didn't like it at first. They don't ever stray from that. It's just that interlocking OU. You never see a block O. You never see like Oklahoma spelled out or anything really. It's just like that OU logo over and over and over. And then I started looking for stuff to buy because I go to like the bookstores every time we go to on these trips, and I go to the store. And I saw like 2 other old school logos that were pretty much the exact same logo. They're just like slightly different from back in the day. And then it hit me and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever that they just like, that's all they have is that old school OU interlocking thing. And that's it. They keep it very simple. But with that, they had some of the coolest old school stuff, some great hats. They're Jordan brands that like I was in the bookstore just like this is nut, and we were in Columbus the week before, and I'm a Buckeye obviously, so I was like so excited to just like take the Fox card and just start buying a bunch of Ohio State stuff that I'm gonna have forever. And I was looking around, I was like, man, I don't really see a lot of stuff I love. And I was at OU, I was like, my God, this is awesome. They have so many old, like Barry Switzer type hats. They got Bob Stoops visors, horns down shirts, like everything about it. Yeah.
You were wearing the same hat as Bob Stoops.
I was, yeah. That Bob Stoops wore.
Beat Nebraska.
Yeah.
No, they did have. So you liked the consistency, like from year to year of the logo.
Yeah, I like the old school. The logo is pretty much it's iconic. It's just like an iconic deal. That color, that crimson with the interlocking OU is iconic. It's like something that has stood the test of time. They have not really changed it that much. They've tweaked it here and there. But with that, they had a lot of great old school merch with like the older. I don't know. There's just something about it. I was like, I dig this vibe.
So my question though, my question is if Ohio State had to have only one logo,
yeah,
like which would you choose? Like what to you would be the thing that is on every shirt forever?
I like just the block O, the basic block, like in the midfield that they have on the football field. It's just a simple block, a red block O. That's it. But then now they like the logo that's always used now is like they put Ohio State in the block O or spelled out, you know, and the black letters, you know what I mean? But yeah, just the block O would be simple. I think that's the timeless.
It's
move,
a really good one.
Yeah, that's it. But no, that stood out to me. They got great merch. It's a great merch school. If you go to OU, you can get a lot of good merch. Yeah,
you sure can. You
can
walk up and down that street.
That's one thing I wish that every school had. So, what's something you could do with that? What was your one thing you were like, this wasn't really for me, but I appreciate that they have it here.
So this is a complicated one for me because when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't want to have to say it, but so I spent time with the Roughnecks, which is the guys, and Lil Sis, the girls who deal with the ponies and stuff. And part of that is their tradition of shooting guns all the time, and they shoot blanks. But we enter the stadium, and at one point, like, they shoot the guns before the game so frequently and at such random intervals that I was so, like, at one point I just yelled out, I was like, holy shit, and then I was like, oh my God, sorry. Like, I never knew when it was coming, and it really, so I respect the tradition, could 100% do without it from, like, a nerve standpoint.
Or if you kind of knew when they were coming. Do you think there's a rhyme or reason? Like, if you're an OU fan and you've been going to games for 20 years, do you think you know when the guns are coming? Or do you think even everybody in that stadium is like, I was not prepared for this.
Well, this is bad journalism on my part because I didn't ask, but no one else around me seemed to jump the way I did, which led me to believe they were expecting it. But at the same time, I was like, the players are only stretching right now, so I don't know what clue you're getting. Like, is it at the 33 minutes before the game, like, the guns go off? I don't know. I just don't know. But did that freak you out? Did you get jumpy? I got so jumpy.
I did the first time where, I mean, I didn't jump per se, but I was like, what the hell is that? And I was looking around like something happened, and then no one else was reacting. I was like, oh, I guess that must just be a normal thing that they obviously shoot
every single gunshot, Mark.
Yeah.
So I honestly I could do that. What was yours?
Mine was I liked the small campus, I suppose. I thought it was cozy and cool and whatever, but it was a little. There seemed to be like 4 bars in the entire area of where we're at, and like you just keep cycling to the same. There's like 2 square blocks. The campus corner is what it was called. It was a very, 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 very small feel. And in a lot of ways that makes college sports awesome, and that's part of why like everybody in that town, in that area, rallies behind the team. One of the ways it's not awesome is when it's game day and you want to go to a bar and every place is packed because there's like 4 and there's like a couple 100,000 people on campus and they're all trying to go to the same 4 bars. So that's one part I didn't like, was that it's just like basically right there. And I would I would try to go into one bar and they'd be like, one was Sideline. The one we did the show at, on game day, I was trying to go into Sideline, and the guy was like, one of the bouncers literally said we're full, and I was like, what do you mean you're full? He's like, we're packed to capacity, no one else can come in. I was like, oh, okay. Well, where should I go? He's like, there's that bar around the corner. And I was like, all right, I'll go to the bar around the corner. And I just kept going in the same 1 block circle where like each bar was like, we're close. Go to the next one. And I was like, wait a second, I'm back at Sideline. How did I get here? Yeah.
Like maybe by the time you get to the one you already tried, one person will have left and you can go in.
Yes. But then like that one person leaves and you go in and it's just like a packed bar with a bunch of like 21-year-olds, and I'm way too old to be in here, and it's just, I'm like, oh my god, the music's too loud and there's nowhere to sit, and I'm like, all right, I'm leaving. So that was it. There was not enough variety there. I asked one person as I was walking around, like, is there a dive bar around here? And she just looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, is there a dive bar like where like the college kids probably won't go? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, all right, cool, never mind.
Yeah.
So that really, I didn't love that. Yeah.
Also, shout out to Sideline. That place was awesome. They I also want to say thank you to all the college kids who came to our show, because sometimes I feel very old on these campuses, and I'm like, are college kids going to be interested in like this? And then a bunch of them came, and it was really fun to,
it turns out,
to hang out with them.
One thing that they're definitely always interested in is free beer, Charlotte, as it turns out.
There it is.
That'll hook anybody.
Giving myself too much credit here.
Finally, what is the funniest thing that happened on this trip that you want to share with the people?
The funniest thing to me was that so we finished shooting at the pony farm and like wrap up the segment, and the owner of the ranch, Tanya, who was wonderful, she was like, hey, do you want to ride a horse? And I was like, yeah, like, sure. I've never ridden a horse before, but like, that would be awesome. Always open to new experiences. So she's like, okay, great. So I'm standing outside and they bring out this horse, and John, the cowboy, brings out this saddle, which was the most beautiful saddle I've ever seen, like inlaid with silver. This thing must have cost like $6,000. Mm-hmm. They put on the horse. They say, here is your horse. His name is 700. He's 21 years old and he's blind. And I was like,
why was his name 700?
I don't know. You know, I was so rattled that I was like, okay. And they were like, get on the horse. So I get on the horse, and I'm on the horse, and I was like, I'm sorry, I actually don't know how to ride this thing.
Oh my God.
So I was like, and it starts moving, and I was like, how do I make it stop? And they're like, okay, squeeze your legs, pull up on the reins, and say, whoa. And so I do, and then he starts like bucking a little, and they were like, but not too much, like let the reins go now. And I was like, okay, so I'm sort of like getting the hang of it. We walk into the barn, and then the horse just keeps going, and I don't know how to stop this horse, and I'm like looking behind me for the cowboys, being like, does anyone know how to, can we like, and they like sprint, because it starts going pretty fast. They like sprint, grab the bridle, immediately like the horse whisperers do whatever they do, and it calms down completely. And I was like, That to me was very funny. Like riding a horse for the first time without knowing how, it turns out, is a pretty funny experience. Like unless it goes horribly wrong.
And then as you're leaving, someone else was walking onto the ranch, and the guy who runs the joint was like, "Yeah, this horse is called 701. They changed the name because you were victim number 701."
Seriously.
This one's
He
named
was
701.
21 and he was blind. I rode a 21-year-old blind horse. It was
That's
kind of
amazing.
amazing.
I feel like horse.
What
I feel
was
like
yours?
riding a horse must be like surfing, where they can explain everything to you, but like ultimately the one thing that matters most is that you have to be one with the ocean or be one with the horse.
Yes.
And like the horse
Yes.
can feel if you're not one with it.
Oh,
You're
he
like,
could
what does that
tell
even
for
mean?
sure.
And you're just yelling. You're like, what does that mean? That's how I feel when I try to surf. And like everyone that's teaching me is like, okay, so do everything we said, but then more importantly, just kind of like let it happen. And I'm like, what does it mean?
Feel it out.
doesn't
Feel it
make
out. And I'm
any
like,
sense.
okay, I'm feeling it, but also like I'm 12 feet above the ground right now. So I have to say I would ride a horse again. Like I would like to try it again. It was terrifying. I was
Yeah.
very scared the entire time.
We gotta get
but
you
it was
to,
also funny.
We gotta get you to like a honky tonk in Texas and try to ride a mechanical bull. That's what we
No,
need. You won't do that.
I've done it. I've done it, and it's the most embarrassing thing I've ever. I find it very embarrassing riding a mechanical bull because I'm so. But you know what? I'll do it for content. I'll do it. But it's gonna
You
be
weren't good.
embarrassing.
You weren't good. You
I
were
wasn't
tossed
good.
immediately the one time you tried it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, what was the funniest thing in your opinion?
The funniest thing I saw was a mural outside one of the bars in that little area of bars that I was talking about earlier. There was a mural that somebody went to the trouble to paint of Russell Westbrook, Barry Switzer, Brian Bosworth, Tupac Shakur, and Biggie Smalls, all wearing like OU gear with their arms around each other at the football stadium. And I stared at this thing, Charlotte. I kept like walking by it, and I kept like it just like broke my brain. I was staring at it trying to make sense. Why the hell? Like Russell Westbrook, Russell Westbrook went to UCLA. He's from LA. He went to UCLA. He was drafted by the Thunder. Or was he drafted by the Sonics? I don't know if he was drafted, but anyway, he played for the Thunder, so I sort of understood that. But even then, like Norman is like 30 minutes from Oklahoma City. So I was like very confused. Like, did he come to one OU football game one time? So now you're pretending like he's an OU alum. Barry Switzer and Brian Bosworth made sense. But then Tupac and Biggie were in this mural, and it just broke my brain. And I finally just threw my hands up. I was like, I don't get it, but this is hilarious. I have no idea why this is a thing. Why no one's painted over this? Why you could have picked so many different people to put on this mural. Like you could have picked Will Rogers, like the guy that they named the airport after.
Yeah.
Like put Toby Keith on there. At least he's an OU. Jim Ross, WWE announcer. Like these are OU people, OU fans. It's still kind of random and funny and like a mixture of like different people, but there's like an actual tie. Tupac and Biggie, I'm willing to bet never once in their entire lives set foot in Oklahoma, the entire state, much less Norman, much less that bar that had this mural. So.
I can't think of a more random but somehow perfect collection. Like it's somehow you're just like, I respect it. I respect it deeply. I mean, I would love to know. In my mind, the reason that thing exists is because they're like, okay, they started with the Boz and Barry Switzer. They were like, this makes sense, and then they were like, all right, we got a little more space on this thing. Russ plays, I like to think he was still on the Thunder at the time that they painted this. They're like, we'll toss Russ on there, and then they were like, oh man, got room for two more people, and they just like look at the latest thing they listen to on Spotify and just like toss Biggie and Tupac up there. It's so good. It's so good.
It made zero sense. It made zero sense, but that made me laugh. So anyway, that's it.
Well, thank you to the people of Oklahoma. I loved Norman. Like I would go back in a second. And the stadium was very intimate. And you had told me because you went. I didn't see it till game day, and I was really surprised by how. It not small, but it felt everything was like very close together and intense.
It feels like a place where there's no bad seats. Yeah, it did feel. It did feel like that. That's what if by intimate you mean something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you can't really go wrong, which was nice. Should we read some emails, Mark?
Sure.
All right. The first one we have is the People's Sports Podcast Curse. And this is similar to what we've already talked about, but it gets into another random one that I thought was funny. So he says, the main reason I'm sending this email is at halftime of the Oklahoma-Nebraska game, I was beginning to think that the People's Sports Podcast curse might actually be real. The start of the second half only strengthened this thought with Nebraska marching down the field, and when they reached the red zone, I did what any rational person who believes in sports curses would do and placed a hefty bet on Nebraska to win the game. As soon as I placed the bet, Nebraska gains a total of 1 yard on the next 3 plays, and on the following field goal attempt to make it a 1-point game, the kicker shanks it left. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma then gets the ball and marches down the field for an easy touchdown to put them up 14-3. I don't know if my bad gambling has anything to do with breaking the curse, but the sequence of events really has to make you think. Ever hopeful, Jamal.
Nice. That's a good one.
I mean,
yeah.
When people are placing bets because of us, I think we've done something right, to be honest.
They're and it like, not only are they placing bets, but they're doing it in a way that like makes sense. Like you kind of I don't know, like if someone said you were betting for Nebraska because you thought we were there, I wouldn't think that that's crazy. That like made a lot of sense as I thought about it. I was like, yeah. And by the way, we should mention like we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back too much that the curse is over, because I don't know if you're paying attention to the schedule we have coming up. LSU will be hosting Auburn. It's going to be a night game, but Auburn is a better football team than LSU. And LSU at night is a great home field advantage. I've been told. I've never been there, but like people have, it's kind of famous in college football circles that LSU at night is one of the cooler environments. But in terms of like just pure football, Auburn has a better football team than LSU. So that doesn't look great. We're going to College Station for Texas A&M versus Alabama when Alabama comes into town. That one doesn't look great. We're going to Austin, Texas versus Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is, I think, undefeated right now, 3-0. That one doesn't look great. Yeah. Ole Miss has LSU coming to town. We're going to Ole Miss when LSU's playing there. Ole Miss is playing awesome football. They might have the Heisman front runner leading the way for them. And that is a great opportunity for the curse to really show its head, because Ole Miss is going to be favored. LSU is not as great as they were a couple years. LSU. This is not a great year of LSU football. So,
right.
I don't know but I was looking at the schedule. I was like, these next 3, like the road teams winning, wouldn't even be kind of surprising. Wouldn't even be like a little bit surprising to me. So that'll be fun.
I feel like the one thing I'm thinking is that this might be the exception to the rule. Like this might be the one game where what was supposed to happen for the home team. I mean,
yeah,
not really, but like we were there, and then everybody loses every other game that we go to at the home team.
Like our one moment of triumph is a 22-point favorite needs a couple kicking miscues to win at home.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that, we're like, we did it. Suck it, haters.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so maybe the curse is still real. So everybody should bet based on where we're going, is what it comes down to. Or here's a thought though: what if we go places and the home team is the underdog, and our being there is actually a curse on whichever team is favored, and then we get a bunch of wins under our belt because we are a curse.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Makes you think.
Maybe we're not the home team curse, we're the favorite curse. Yes, I like it. Continue.
It really is a way better way of spinning things. Anyway, this is one for you, Mark. The Incomparable Script Ohio from Patrick Clark. He says, I used to, this made me laugh when I first read it. I used to think incomparable was strictly a high form of praise. One day, I heard a radio advertisement to, quote, come see the incomparable CeeLo Green Christmas show live in the Wisconsin Dells. From that day, I can only hear the word as a filler adjective when something is simply difficult to describe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot. Yeah. There are a lot of things that are incomparable. That doesn't necessarily have to be a good thing,
Yeah, but the incomparable CeeLo Green Christmas show live in Wisconsin Dells is one of the funniest sentences I've heard in my entire life.
Yeah, when you put it that way, incomparable is definitely not always a compliment.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it was an unbelievable Christmas show. Like, I wasn't there. I don't know.
I wish there was a way to. I wish there was a way for this guy to explain what the show is like so I could understand it, but it's incomparable. I mean, you had to be there to see it. That's pretty much it.
I'm going to do some research, and next time I'll have some answers. All right. Last email, then we will get out of here. But did you see, Mark, the picture of DK Metcalf and Rodrigo Blankenship from last weekend?
No, I'll pull it up.
It was, it's really just like, the beefiest guy in the world and Rodrigo Blankenship, a kicker with rec specs on. And this guy says, as I'm sure if you've seen the picture from last weekend, I think your next venture in the film industry is pitching a buddy cop movie of these two. They could go around investigating real crimes or crimes about deflated balls, how a half-century-old man is still thriving in a violent sport, or the Shailene Rogers marriage. I'm sure comedy would ensue. And then he said, putting my mortgage on Nebraska this weekend, so I'm 100% certain your curse will now end. And now we know why. It's because of Brandon.
Oh, I see them now. There we go. I got the picture. Yeah. Nice.
That's it. That's just one more curse email about how I think Brandon because he bet his house on Nebraska, countered our bad luck. But also,
there's a certain point where if you're placing money on Nebraska football in the year 2021, you deserve whatever happens to you. If you're putting real life American currency on Nebraska football, like I'm not gonna, that doesn't fall on us to have to suss out like whether you're cursed or not cursed or anything else. It's like you made that decision, live with it. You put money on Nebraska football. I mean, like, what are you doing, dude? Get it together.
I also think that at some point we should do a list of our favorite, like who the best actual buddy cop in sports movie would be.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think we could come up with some good ones. My first thought was like Gardner Minshew and anyone. And then I realized it wasn't fleshed out enough, so I was like, let's do that at a later date.
Okay. All right. We'll do it at a later date.
Anyway, that's all we got for emails. You've anything you want to add to land this plane, Mark?
I don't think so. I think that's it. I thank you. I'll echo your sentiments. Thank you to people of Oklahoma. We had a great time. I learned a lot about Oklahoma culture, and I want to preemptively apologize to everyone who was led to believe that I love Oklahoma so much and now I'm a Sooner fan forever, who is now going to look up in like 2 or 3 weeks when we're in Austin and I'm wearing burnt orange and throwing up the horns. And I'm like, here we go. Let's go Texas. I'm the biggest Texas fan on earth. I apologize. I just want to preemptively apologize. And same for A&M. Like, we're going to be in College Station, and then we're going to be in Austin. So it's just going to be a very confusing time where we're going to have a lot of people, I think, their heads are going to be spinning trying to make sense of what's going on, when really it's pretty straightforward. We just pander. We just go to these towns and pander. Yep. That's what it is.
Yep. And also, think about it this way. We're giving great opportunities for people to be mad at something online, which they love. They'll be like, but you did horns down last weekend. We'll be like, yep, and now it's horns up, baby. Come at me.
I can't tell if this would make us great politicians or horrible politicians, where like we could have this thrown in our face. Like, you're not one of us. What about this picture of you wearing an OU hat? And then I'm like, that's a good point. I did. Or if it's like, I just say fake news, and then I'm like, horns up, baby, and then that's That's
it's
it.
the latter.
Like, I just pander wherever I go and just hope that my past doesn't catch up to me. That's my plan.
I love it. Well, we'll see how it works out for these next few shows. Hey pals, thanks for watching the People Sports Podcast YouTube channel. For more of mine and Mark's very weird rabbit holes, stick around, watch more. You can subscribe, smash that subscribe button. You know you want to. We're going to give you all the weird stuff we possibly can.